this week we're gonna jump into just kind of day in the life, but also talk about property management. And I'm jumping into a meeting with one of my team members here just to talk about our marketing process. Dive into this meeting. So what do property managers do? And then what do property managers not do? Let's jump in the meeting and see where it goes. I think he was up there. You and I might jump into that at the end of the call, but we'll see where it goes. Let's talk about Buildium. I'll share my screen. Now, if we're gonna pivot back to Buildium for screening or continue with current software that we use, basically bill people through QuickBooks because what we do now doesn't allow for that, the billing to happen. It's not necessarily slowing things down, but I do think it comes off as potentially like scammy. And obviously we're fighting a lot of fraud on the internet with people that don't actually manage properties. It was why we pivoted, was we had too many touch points because we had to tell someone to apply and then tell them to do the screening, which hit their email. And then we had to wait a while to get it back. And sometimes their application fee wasn't processed correctly on their end or was bad, and it basically had us cover the fee and then we lost money. So when we pivoted, we started making better margins on our applications because simply people had funds that were processing through QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is a really good operating system for running debit, credit, ACH, and immediately having those funds, but probably increased another step. And then we've also probably look a little sketchy. I mean, I don't want to say it's super sketchy because I wouldn't be doing it if I didn't believe in it at some level, but Buildium seems to either have this new feature or something I didn't know that was available at the time.
Could you confirm?
I'm not sure because we would actually be able to process it ourselves, and if it's going to take 10 to 15 minutes, we might not even want to do it. If you just write in your notes, go to add-on services, and then scroll down to integrated tenant screening, and then learn more on enhanced tenant screening. You can watch that on your own time. It'll click into that video if you scroll down and be able to play it. And that'll just be the start of the conversation. I don't like changing things because we do have stuff that's like working. I'm just trying to come up with alternatives that we probably should talk about sometimes so we don't just get lazy and think that we have the best thing. But, you know, pivoting costs money, costs time, new education behind it. You know, there's a lot of change. So, you know, but having it all in.
Having backup is an option as well, right? Having a backup is a great option as well in case like there is a definite downtime for the particular current applications that we are using.
Yeah.
We have a alternative one.
Yep. So that's really all I wanted to talk about on that point. And then we wanted to talk on probably just a generic pre-marketing conversation. So I want to pre-market properties sooner now that we have the tools to do that. And so if you're seeing a planned move out on Lead Simple, so if you're over here on Lead Simple, you go to move out billing right there, you can click. Now I would always suggest going over here and making sure that we look at the most. I probably click do at and it shows like the most recent, and you can kind of start looking at, well, these are what's probably going to hit the marketing pipeline, and so can we market those in our software early and just not allow showings until the tenant has moved out, or potentially do some showings if the tenant allows. But for right now, I just want to talk on if we can get these up in our system, we can generate a backlog of leads. And then those backlog of leads, once we open the door for showings, will all be notified, and it'll have more time on market to accumulate people interested. And so I would say within 4 weeks of knowing the move out date, then we go over into our system. Viewing side is just you to put it on the wait list, and it just doesn't allow the viewings at that point and allows leads to start flowing in. And it'll make your job easier on day one of being able to show, to just click that button. And then now we're getting ahead of the curve even more. The only constraint is photos. That's your only constraint. So as we have more logs of photos, then we can do this sooner and sooner. And so looking at the move out process, and that's happening before the turnover of maintenance process. This is the closest thing before the marketing starts. Because you got to think about the lifetime of that tenant. The tenant's living there, they give us notice, or we give them notice to move out. The move out billing process begins, and then eventually that billing process and the tenant moves out. Well, then now the turnover has probably started within 48 hours of that tenant leaving the property. And at that point, we have our team going in and starting the turnover, and they can notify you on if the property's viewable or not. But we could be showing that property sooner than that if photography has been completed. Honestly, any unit that is a multifamily, you have a better chance of having some photos from something before. It's okay because most of our multifamilies are the exact same units. So you can take Washington Pike photos and use them forever on, as long as they're good looking photos, and we're proud of it. And then we would just hold off on the viewing until Dante can notify us to say, hey, yeah, it's clean enough. Like, we can do viewings while he's getting it turned over. If we implement that, we will probably cut 2 weeks off vacancy. I think we could get down to like 2 weeks of total vacancy between tenant moving out, new tenant moving in, assuming the turnover is a light touch-up of work, and we have photos completed. And that's just going to make everyone happy, and landlords make more money. Emails that we need to send out today, which we don't have a lot, luckily. I think we need to send out emails to landlords. We've just begun marketing this Tuesday or Wednesday. We can do it next Friday. But the key variables, I still feel like when we're sending an email out, we're not quite getting what I want. And I'll show you. Are you calling them a marketing? What is the email subject?
No, weekly report.
Okay.
Weekly update.
We're showing the viewing scheduled, actual viewings, and well, this one's an older one. I feel like I've given different instructions. First off, I definitely want to be involved in all of them. I want to be included in the emails, because I don't think I got last week's. The email could look as simple as, hey, Mr./Mrs. Landlord, thanks for trusting us with your property. And this can be standard. Here is the data from this week's marketing period. And then you literally have like leads generated. You'd have showings, and then applications, and then you have your one statement that is, hopefully it's something positive, like we had a few showings, but only one person applied. They are still currently in process. Hope to finish up next week and find a well-qualified tenant. And it literally just like, okay, leads generated. Let's say there's like 5 leads. Showings, we had 2, and then 1. Everything we're doing on the team, I've noticed that across everyone. It's just the industry we're in. We have to be super optimal on our time. And so there's no need to create a beautiful box and then, bring it over. It's like, nah, just keep it simple. It's the same value we're providing there. I want to highlight that I want the 3 data points to only be leads generated for that week, the amount of showings, and the amount of applications, because those are the most 3 important data points. So
correct. And somehow I think landlord really appreciate it because they are responding and asking for particular updates prior to the week.
Yep. It brings people value, and I think that the landlords that have worked with us longer obviously have way more trust with us because they've seen us perform, where these newer landlords, they don't have any reason to trust us other than word of mouth from other landlords. So it's like, at the end of the day, like I would assume we're doing nothing if no one's talking to me. So us having these points of contact with the landlord weekly through email can help improve that starting relationship and showing like what we're doing. As good as I do, we are busy. That's kind of the finish line of what I want out of that, and you can send those emails out weekly without getting them approved by me because they're pretty basic now. I just really want that to be the standard. Yeah. Back to Lead Simple, like the thing that I just showed you where it's like you can kind of be proactive and starting to look at the move out billing process to kind of predict what's coming up in the pipeline. Obviously, when I first click on it, sometimes these processes don't start with the newest stuff. So just double check. Sometimes the created at is better than the do at. There's no specific one that makes it work all the time for me, but you can kind of start seeing a trend. If our team can predict more things popping up, we will have a better scenario of no surprises. To finalize like our meeting, I've been trying to figure out like what we're gonna do there. And I think that I've been watching you log your weekly reports on like 2 out of 5s for like intensity. And so I think there may be an opportunity. I don't want to like promise anything right now because I'm really just trying to solve it and keep everything the same. But if I have to like move a chess piece somewhere on our team, I may be giving you more responsibility, which obviously comes with more pay, but it's only if I believe that the position in general can handle it. I just wanted to show you, number one, kind of showed you the other day how to go into our settings and simply update connection between Buildium and Lead Simple, and we just sync it right there. Then number two, just showing you the processes of where you can be more proactive. And that's just me trying to give you a couple hints. It's not saying you're doing anything wrong. I just think that if each of us on the team can see where something's going to be arriving to us from, we can catch more mistakes of lost information and or be proactive and hit something 90 days before it's due, which is the ultimate goal. And so someone like Anne is in the billing process quite a bit. Well, she's probably going to be down here in the maintenance because she's seeing something getting worked on. She knows, okay, it's going to be up here soon. So she's probably down here asking, well, hey, Dante, when's the bill for Cross Creek out in Maynardville going to be sent to me? I saw that this started blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden that self-auditing is going to happen. And so the person that understands when and where these things happen in real life regarding when we're on our dashboard in Buildium and we're looking at vacancies, we're looking at bills, we got unpaid bills, we got paid bills. There's, we can look at outstanding balances. That's going to kick us over into our late rent process, and then it's going to kick us over into the eviction. The person that understands both this software and this software and where the data connects with the task is ultimately the person that's going to be able to truthfully catch every small missed task or dot and push things around. And that person will have no time for anything else other than auditing our own team. And it's a pretty aggressive term for saying audit, but it's truly that's all it is, because I don't want them to be in charge of anything. They're just simply auditing like a bookkeeper, saying, hey, I noticed that this person's been on late rent for, let's say, 80 weeks, some crazy story. Well, why haven't we gone on to the eviction process? And so those conversations can happen inside the team, and it's catching up the slack of the other staff members, which was, kind of what we wanted to hire you for, but ultimately we really needed more help in the leasing department. So we haven't been able to dive into this super hard. But that's just all to say that hopefully when I get done with this video, like you can watch it back and you can maybe, come up with some ideas in the future and we can keep building. Right now, the more likely situation is that we take some of your hours and put them into, maintenance, and that's worth a little bit of more income, certainly, for us to pay you. And if that does happen, then we will make sure it gets compensated. And we're kind of constantly growing. So this is where I'm trying to keep our staff the same size, because I know we can do it. I know we can take 5 people and run a 250 unit property management company. And that's where the challenge for me is not to hire someone new. I'd rather pay people better. But then on the other hand, it's like we can't expect people to be sprinting every day to just grind and grind and grind, because that's not what the job's supposed to be for anyone. Bring more value to the landlord, because anyone can go onto Google and look up the top 3 handymen in Knoxville, and they probably are pretty good, but the pricing is hundreds of dollars difference. So over, let's say, a larger portfolio, you're talking thousands of dollars spent on those handymen that you can Google once again and go on the internet and find. If you're a property manager, you're trying to find the best skilled handyman for the dollar, and it's going to be smaller based teams that don't have as large of overhead, guys that want to work for themselves and carry the hammer and the nail. And so that's where the skill set comes into with property management. Can you find those people that you can trust, that trust you, and can have a lasting relationship where they can get to the property fast and solve the issue, and do it for competitive pricing? Because if you can't do that, then you're simply just the coordinator. And when you're just coordinating between vendor and tenant and not really saving the landlord any money, eventually it'll get sniffed out that you're not providing enough value for the landlord, and they'll just do it themselves. It's the complexity of using those smaller teams that don't have the Google phone number that can take voicemails, and it brings the difference between us and the regular property manager. And so with the C-class assets that honestly do have a lot more noise than the A and B with regards to like plumbing and electric and just basic handyman work, that's where we can get our assembly line just backed up to the maximum on ticket items that are getting submitted by tenants. And then obviously you're going to get tenants that are super upset with everything you're doing when you're not getting out there and repairing. And the delay happens when you don't have enough handymen that can manage the amount of assets you're managing, or in other situations, just they're on vacation, because again, they're small business owners themselves, and so when they're gone, their business stops. So you can't just coordinate with them like a larger company that has more overhead, that charges more money, because you have to work with people's lives. And I respect that, being a small business owner myself. So it's one of those things where we've increased our roster of handymen that we have. I think we're over 6 right now, and we're managing just over 200 units. And so we're always able to kind of rotate the next guy in that can get it out there to the property, diagnose it, and take action. But then there's also chain of command internally for us to say, is that the price that we want to take on and get the thing fixed? Because oftentimes the difference is $50, but $50 saved over how many calls are you doing a year can again get to 1,000, multiples of 1,000 of savings. So, all that being said, we are continually trying to improve this. We have multiple staff members in our maintenance department right now, some virtual, some here in Knoxville, that are trying to solve this problem. We're going to continually find better ways to get the maintenance item solved faster, from complaint submitted to ticket resolved with the solution, and obviously invoice and contractor paid. That's currently around 7 days on our team with just like non-emergency situations. But I'd like to improve that, and I'd like to get us to the point where we're running even smoother, so that way it doesn't feel as though we're just pushing through to the next item, and we can honestly provide that better service and have more retention on our own staff that can enjoy their jobs a little bit more and get to the point where we're really rolling. So as we're growing, we have to be prepared for more maintenance items. And so we're trying to get ahead of that before it turns into bogging us down and turning us into maybe when I first got started in property management, when everything started, just bogging you over with tasks. So anyways, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go check out the signs that I have ordered at UPS. Just want to show you guys a little bit more of like what I'm doing all day. Is usually helping a team member break through a process and create better systems, or just honestly like working through specific maintenance items or a specific marketing material for the properties we manage. And so a lot of what our business gets paid for is just making sure these things keep running and burning. So let's go get our new signs. The old signs are over here. They're kind of boring. They don't have a QR code. We've changed phone numbers, which is ultimately why I've honestly gotten new signs. But these new ones are going to be sweet, and I think they're going to convert more people to viewings and showings and all the rest on applications. So today's a Friday, kind of getting foggy brain on where we're going with things, but we will see you in the next scene. All right, we're out here. We're gonna get the signs going and basically show them off because they look good. I'm gonna actually show you the old ones. Those are the old ones, nice and boring. So here's the new ones. Look good. So little QR code right there. Get ourselves up some more viewings because new phone number, as you can see as well. So give that a shout if you're trying to rent one of our properties. I'm going to take one of the stakes over here and actually change that out. Back at the property we did last week's video. We're going to do a few of them here. Get this old one out of the way. All right, we got signs out. I'm super excited about that. They look so good. I waited like 3 weeks for them because they were so cheap. Got these for $250. I got 50 of them. And Printful, or 48-hour print, was trying to charge me a couple $1,000s. So that's sick. Put out 2 of them at the property. So that's hopefully going to get you a lot more showings. I will... So watch this. This is pretty sweet. So when I go to my phone, look right here, and we zoom in on it, it'll go to the website and it'll literally pull up our listings. So boom, as the internet, well, I'm on someone's Wi-Fi. So it'll literally pull up the listing and they can schedule from here to get a showing. So that's kind of like the added feature of our signs now. So I think that's pretty cool. All right, we're back at the same property, but I did film a different day. So I promise you, not just trying to film all these monthly videos in one day, but wanting to get the signs out here and make them look good. Fresh new signs with the QR codes that people can scan and basically just quickly get showing scheduled, and it's going to help our conversion rate, which is a big thing in property management, is converting people to leasing properties that are well-qualified tenants. And that's honestly what I want to end the video on, is what does a property manager do and what does a property manager not do? And what they should not be doing is trying to obviously increase expenses throughout the property, finding things wrong that don't really need immediate attention, and trying to repair everything that may not need repairing in the first place. More opinionated, aesthetic type, maintenance orders versus actual repairs, making sure, heat, water, hot water, no leaking, so that way the asset doesn't deteriorate, and pay attention to gutters, roofs, things like that actually bring value to the owner. Property managers should be focusing on stabilizing assets. That is, making sure that the property, the physical structure, is being kept up, and then that the cash flow is being kept up. If you can do both those things as a property manager, that's all you should focus on. And property managers should just be leasing, bookkeeping, maintenance coordinating, and then just somewhat of a, a last second, last resort favor type person that can go out to the property for that landlord. Past that, property managers aren't listing properties. They're not going to help buy properties. They're not going to do construction projects. We would handle turnovers. A traditional property manager, what they do, what they do not do. Property managers stabilize assets. Think of a personal assistant that can help you with every little thing. They're not a project manager. They're not a realtor. They're not a contractor, renovates houses or anything like that. They're just people that can help make sure things are running smooth and keep the assembly line running. So we'll do probably a more in-depth video on that eventually, but thanks for sticking around. Trying to get one of these videos out weekly. Rent is coming due in a couple weeks, so catch you then. Thanks for bearing with me. I think someone was yelling at me or somebody else, so I figured I'd just sit in the car. These videos, man, sometimes they're hard to make, so I appreciate those that are watching, and sorry I can't always put out the greatest, most entertaining or most educational video, but I think it's important that if I keep making these videos and you guys keep watching, that you'll learn more about how we operate and things that we learn and the mistakes that we make. And today was mostly about trying to reorganize our maintenance department and trying to figure out better ways to push that to be lower cost than the landlord, which is pretty much the number one variable we're always looking at. And then number two, getting these ticket items finished in a more timely manner. Right now we're around 7 days from complaint made to something getting repaired, but when you start putting your eyes and hands into the weeds of things, it kind of turns into this thing where nothing's ever good enough, but you'll never be perfect and fix things in 5 minutes. But the goal is to narrow that 7 days down to hopefully 5 or 4 days on average on non-emergency items. Just get her starting to think about lead simple more and where we can be proactive inside of it and find areas where we can start a ticket item sooner, because property management is really more about taking really good notes than anything. If you can take really good notes and then be able to service that information up to the higher people on the team that can help make decisions on that info, that property management company is going to do very, very well. I know that if property managers are watching this, their number one thing they're always trying to do is have their team take better notes. The issue with that is team members like to get stuff done because it feels more important to work on the work than to record information about what you're working on. But that after a few days of not doing that, you will get so far behind and you will not know what you should work on that day going into work, because the last 48 hours you've basically been running on the whim of your will, or whatever the saying is, and you're not as organized as you were previously. And so then it turns your day into less efficient. Now you're spending more time on tasks, and if we would have just kept going with taking quality notes while completing steps and continually going back to our tickets on Lead Simple, which is software you'll see in other videos that I've done and I'll do more in the future, but they're basically the assembly line. I consider them each task a widget, and we have to get it built all the way to the consumer's happiness at the finish line. So that's either a tenant being happy with something being repaired, or a landlord getting paid out, everything, move-ins, move-outs, mid-leases, maintenance, bookkeeping, everything we do has a ticket and or a widget. So if we can take notes and keep track of that widget as it goes through the process, when something happens, we'll be able to look back on those records and make better decisions, because we're handling so many properties and so many tasks a day that you won't remember everything. So it has to get written down. And when team members are out on vacation, sick, or whatever, other team members can pick up the slack and get into those notes if they're provided. So long story short, we had a meeting on that, and I wanted to show you guys the signs because I've been waiting on those all week, and hopefully we can get some more content out next week, and we'll see you then. And remember, rent's due, baby.